Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a look at a story that, well, it might look like a children's book, but it's packed with some of the deepest wisdom you'll ever find. We're diving into Antoine de Saint-Exupery's masterpiece, The Little Prince.
Right from the get-go, the book hits us with this dedication. And it's not just a nice little opening line, It's really the whole point of the story. Saint-Exupery is drawing a line in the sand between two worlds, the incredible, imaginative world of a child and the rigid, so-called sensible world of grown-ups.
And he doesn't waste a single second showing us exactly what he means. This whole conflict is laid out perfectly in the very first chapter, with a simple drawing the narrator made as a kid. So, picture this. The narrator is 6 years old, he's just read this amazing book about the jungle, and he's inspired. He draws what he calls his drawing number 1, and he's super proud of it. He takes it around and shows it to all the adults. He asks them this one simple question. He's expecting them to see what he sees, the danger, the adventure. But the grown-ups, well, they look at it with their grown-up eyes, and they see something completely different. A hat. That's all they see. They're so literal, so stuck on the surface, that they completely miss the incredible story happening right underneath. They can't see the imagination at play. So the poor kid has to literally spell it out for them. He draws number 2, showing the elephant inside the boa constrictor, because as he says, grown-ups always need to have things explained. And this whole experience is just so crushing that he actually gives up on his dream of becoming an artist. Okay, so let's fast forward a few years. The narrator crashes his plane in the middle of the Sahara Desert, and that's where he meets our hero, the Little Prince. And it turns out the prince has been on his own epic journey, hopping between these tiny planets, each one inhabited by a very lonely, very single-minded grown-up. And each one of these characters is just a hilarious and kind of sad example of adult obsession. You've got the king, who thinks he rules everything but has no subjects. The conceited man, who just wants to be admired, even though he's all alone. The tippler, who's stuck in this tragic, pointless loop. And my favorite, the businessman, who thinks he owns the stars just by counting them. They're all completely lost in their own little matters of consequence, and the prince just thinks, wow, grown-ups are very, very odd.
So, feeling pretty let down by this whole tour of adult silliness, the prince finally lands on Earth. And here, he gets another shock. He finds a garden with 5,000 roses. He's heartbroken, because the rose he loves back on his planet told him she was the only one in the whole universe. He just lies down in the grass and cries. But it's right then that he meets a fox, who's about to teach him the single most important lesson in the whole book.
The prince just wants to play, but the fox says, nope, can't. I'm not tamed. The prince has no idea what that means. The fox tells him it's an act too often neglected, something that people just don't make time for anymore. Now, this is so important. Taming isn't about dominance or control. The fox explains it just means to establish ties. It's that slow, patient process of building a one-of-a-kind relationship. See, before you're tamed, you're just like 100,000 other boys, and the fox is just like 100,000 other foxes. But after you tame each other, you become special. You become necessary to one another. And once the prince understands this, the fox shares his secret. And this, right here, is the philosophical heart of the entire book. It's the ultimate answer to that whole grown-ups only see a hat problem. This just lays it all out so perfectly, doesn't it? Our eyes, the grown-up eyes, see the literal stuff. A boring old hat, a bunch of flowers, a guy counting numbers. But the heart sees what's essential but invisible. It sees the adventure inside the sneak, the special bond that makes your rose unique, and the complete emptiness of owning something you can't even be useful to. And just like that, it all clicks for the little prince. He gets it. He looks at those 5,000 roses and realizes they're empty because no one took the time to tame them. He knows now that his rose, his flower, is truly unique to him, and he knows he has to go back to her. But the fox gives him one last piece of wisdom. He says, all that time you spent, all that effort you wasted on your rose, that's exactly what makes her so important. When you establish ties with something, you become responsible for it. Forever. But here's where the story gets really bittersweet. Getting back to his little asteroid isn't easy. The prince tells the narrator that his body is just a shell, and it's too heavy for the trip. So he makes this mysterious plan with a yellow snake, whose bite will, will free him from that shell so he can go home. The narrator is, of course, completely heartbroken. The prince is gone, and by morning, his body has vanished too. All the pilot has left is the memory of his friend's laugh, which he says he can now hear in the stars, like 500 million little bells ringing. But he's also left with this huge, nagging mystery. See, he drew a muzzle for the prince's sheep to keep the rose safe, but he completely forgot to draw the little leather strap to keep it on. And that one tiny mistake leaves him with this massive, universe-sized question. He says the answer to this question changes everything. If the sheep got to the flower, then all the stars are crying. But if she's safe, they're all laughing. It's a question of love and loss that is so incredibly important, yet no grown-up, with their obsession with numbers, could ever possibly understand why it matters so much. And here's where things get really haunting. Life kind of imitated art. Just a year after he published this book about a boy who leaves his heavy shell behind to return to the stars, the author, Saint-Exupery, vanished during a flight mission. Just like his creation, he disappeared, leaving behind a mystery that would last for decades. So in the end, the story leaves us with a challenge. It's asking us to really question what our matters of consequence are. It's a call to action, really. A plea to remember how to see with our hearts, and to never forget that sometimes the most important things in life are the things we can't see at all.